Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and with the launch of the War Within beta, we got ourselves yet another beta War Within build, which adds additional class changes. For many players, this is their opportunity to finally test out all of the newest class revamps, talent adjustments, hero specs, and even newest tier sets. On this channel, however, we've been tracking these class changes fairly closely, though out of all the classes that I've been able to cover, Death Knights, Mages, and Warlocks keep showing up week after week. It seems that Blizzard is trying to make those three in particular as good as they possibly can be, and this week is no other, with Warlocks getting even more additional changes. Primarily, we're seeing adjustments to Affliction, with them trying to give players as many talent points to play around and talent into to be able to experiment and try different builds by removing a lot of the 2-point nodes that could block off a lot of the progression. But also adjustments to destruction as well, as the Overfiend comes in full swing, a brand new demon that only they can summon, though the raw power of the demon may be a little bit on the ambitious side. We also will have a tiny update for Demonology Warlocks as well, but today I wanted to do a Warlock overview of the most recent beta build. As always, if you guys enjoyed these kind of class updates on the War Within beta, make sure to follow the channel, otherwise let's dive right in. So when covering Warlocks, I will primarily highlight Destruction and Affliction. Demonology didn't get too many changes, but there is one new thing that we can mention right before we get into the meat of things. But before that, if you're just joining us on the beta, this set looks absolutely amazing. I'm a big fan. Normally Warlocks get something with skulls or something that has a more of a demonic look, like a weird mask or something, but looking like a Shivara as a tier set, I think it's top notch. I think it's really good, and the Mythic Edition has this Shivara hands that kind of glow up behind you. It looks absolutely good. Very, very happy with the Warlock set. Though depending on the spec of Warlock that you are, you may not be, kind of happy, kind of unhappy with your tier sets. They definitely did take it in a whole new direction. And that's kind of where we're going to mention Demonology briefly, as their tier set is very different than all the others. Your primary demon deals 5% increased damage. Makes sense. And your Shadow Bolt damage is increased by 50%. And recently it has been feeling like Blizzard is a little bit obsessed with the Shadow Bolt and increasing the damage of this ability, especially with the way they've been adjusting Demonology over the last few weeks over on the alpha. But to give Shadow Bolt even more damage, I mean, maybe it'll open up some opportunity for Shadow Bolt specific talents to shine a little bit more. There is a nice interaction between the Chaos Mother and the Infernal Bolt ability though. That is going to make that ability hit very, very hard, so that is something that you should definitely take a note of. As when you play around with the Diabolus playstyle, every few soul shards that you spend, you'll be able to summon these extra demons. Cloven Souls will have an Overlord jump in, cleave enemies, making them take more damage from you. A Pit Lord will spawn in and cause your next hand to go down to be a Ruination, which deals 2.7 million damage, kind of exciting. But then there's also the Secrets of the Covenant with the Mother of Chaos that spawns in, buffing your next Shadow Bolt. And if you were to consider all the talents that buff the damage of your Shadow Bolt on top of it, like Ruin of Shadows for example, or maybe things like Sacrifice Souls, the ability that the Chaos Mother provides with Infernal Bolt scales off of your Shadow Bolt. So if you take all these talents plus the tier set, you actually can get a bit of damage, so at the very least there is something to gain in that regard, specifically when it comes to playing out as a Demonology Warlock. Anyway, from there, we're going to move on to Demonology. If you haven't been tracking all of the other videos that we've done on the channel when it comes to Warlock, which I feel like we've been covering fairly regularly since this class in general looks absolutely amazing, then you'll be happy to note that Destruction got a fairly comprehensive redesign of their talent tree, which gives you a little bit more freedom in how you optimize all of your talented options. There's a couple of new capstones here, one of them being the more exciting one, the Avatar of Destruction, which previously would summon up a Blasphemy, which was kind of like a version of an Infernal of sorts. In similar shape, similar structure, it would just be a big rocky boy, but just a purple version or a red version, depending on how you customize it. But they've actually changed up the way that the pet looks completely. So now when you do get the Overfiend, that's going to be a slightly different looking pet. Although for me right now, he looks like a Pit Lord. That is not what he's supposed to look like, however. Alright, so apparently I'm just bugged, so that is my Overfiend. That is not what he's supposed to look like. Let me show you what this demon is actually supposed to look like. If for some reason all of my summonable demons have all become Pit Lords for whatever reason. But if we go to Cataclysm, we go to Firelands, we go to Balrog the Gatekeeper, this is what an Orphan is supposed to look like. Everybody else gets one. For some reason on my screen, I'm seeing a Pit Lord. Either way, they did, sorta kinda, implement the Avatar of Destruction where you're supposed to summon an Overfiend, a Chaos Slinging Demon, which generates one Soul Shard fragment every 0.5 seconds and casts Chaos Bolt at 80% effectiveness at its summoned target. Though something happened with this demon where, for some reason, I guess they took the part of generates a Soul Shard every half a second, but he's also casting a Chaos Bolt every half a second. And if you're playing together with Master Ritualist and Ritual of Ruin, and for some reason as a Hellcaller together with Malevolence and the haste buff it provides, something about the talent interaction caused you to summon a bunch of these demons all at once. And I'm going to attempt to see if I can recreate it really quickly just so you can see what this looks like. But the effect that this has in dungeons is absolute hilarity. So you get to a point where you can basically just spam Chaos Bolts over and over and over. And all these Pit Lords are just going to keep coming out non-stop. Chaos bolting at the target every half a second. You just have an amalgamation, an absolute monstrosity of demons just firing off all at the same time. I'm not really sure what causes it. But you can get a bunch of these Pit Lords and I guess normally Overfiends if you want to. And if you want, you can make a whole wall of them if you can get the chain going just right. Yeah, this is a very wacky talent. It's been a lot of fun to play with, but yeah, definitely not intended. Somebody the other day was arguing with me saying, oh no, this is intended. This is an actual mechanic that's meant to be brought in for Warlocks. And there's just no way. So if you're playing around with Destruction, have fun. The talent, I'm glad that it does work. It may be a little too well, but at least it does work. And I'm glad that the Overfiend is brought back in because when they initially added the Overfiend, I got extremely excited about the demon. And this is what the demon is actually supposed to look like. He looks fantastic. It just casts Chaos Bolts a little bit too quickly. But the actual model is incredible. It even has a weapon in main hand, so it's awesome. And I love how Destruction can actually invoke demons and really feel like a Diabolist to some degree when they summon that many demons all at once. Big fan of that talent. Otherwise, the rest of the talents didn't really change too much. The last time we made a video, we did know that the Infernal is now bottom right of the talent as part of the whole capstone option, and the ability of Dimensional Rift has been upgraded towards a centered talent in order to make it easier for more Destruction Warlocks to spec into it as like a free talent. And you generally end up picking this one up, I think, in a lot of builds because as you're heading down towards the capstones, you get to about this row here, and then you have a lot of talent points that you can go back and reinvest into whatever flavor choices you want to pick up afterwards. So the talent economy outside of the capstones for Destruction is actually quite generous pretty early on. Besides this, however, we also have Affliction Warlock that has actually gained a few notable changes this week. And I've actually been able to test out Affliction in particular quite a bit, especially as a spec of Hellcaller. In some of the earlier builds, they actually started to tone down the main ability of Wither, which is essentially a Shadow Flame version of Corruption that has increased instant damage and a much better output of your overall damage. If you felt like your Affliction Warlock, as of recently, at least on live, has been more of a Malefic Rapture Warlock, where your dots are present in a part of your gameplay, but the main majority of rotation is all about maintaining dots to empower your Malefic Rapture, then you'll be happy that Hellcaller does exist, because it amplifies the damage of your agonies. It does amplify the damage of your corruption, where your dots play a bigger role, where Malefic Rapture is still going to be a significant ability, especially in most of the single target encounters and during high burst situations, but the sustained damage, the cleave damage, and the overall output of Malefic Rapture kind of takes more of a backseat, and it's primarily there to mostly empower Wither with additional stacks, and these stacks can enhance the ability itself and cause Wither to start eating those stacks whenever enemies are dropped below 20% health, so it gives the ability even more of execute value, making Affliction Warlocks lean heavier into sustained damage over time, rather than into the Malefic Rapture spam. Either way, Affliction Warlocks has gotten a handful of new talents, such as Ravenous Afflictions, which is a new talent towards the bottom right of the capstones, where critical strikes from your Agony, Corruption, Unstable Affliction have a chance to grant you Nightfall procs. This one is especially good if you end up playing around a Soul Harvester playstyle, which plays heavily around the ability of Nightfall, as it does give you more interactions with some of the hero talent specifics. I've been playing with this one, and if you're playing into a Hellcaller, it can apply you quite a bit of extra sustain damage if that is what you want out of it. But I imagine this one will synergize better with improved Shadowbolt for the instant cast nature, and how Shadowbolt ends up getting empowered by Soul Harvester, or at least in the way that it interacts together, because it just feels like with this many Nightfall procs, Drain Soul, you just can't cast and get through all those procs as fast as you would just spamming Shadowbolts as an instant cast ability. But it is generally an exciting talent, and I've been spending quite a bit of time with it. Another talent that has been added here is also Perpetual Instability. The cast time of Unstable Affliction is reduced by 20%, though refreshing Unstable Affliction within 8 or less seconds deals additional shadow damage to its target. I assume that the 13,000 damage is still as a placeholder value, because when our characters are rocking 4 million health and are dealing millions of damage, the 13,000 damage doesn't seem like a lot, but when they're trying to give you a little bit more incentive to refresh your dots inside of the pandemic windows, does promote good gameplay of Affliction, and good management of your dots, and additional extra damage could be good for pure single target output. Besides this, a lot of the gate talents have been adjusted. You will see there's not too many talents that are 2-point costs, except for Contagion as well as Malediction. A lot of the talents in this row specifically and further down have all become 1 talent point cost, which makes it much easier for you to specialize into all of these different talent and playstyles. They even moved up the ability of Soul Rot up here, so if you want to include Soul Rot as part of a Soul Harvester playstyle, you can, without even having to spend into things such as Dark Harvest, which is usually a very sought after talent, or even things such as Malign Omen, which may be useful within specific situations. But the fact that you can pick up Soul Rot pretty easily and use that as an opener to pick up some of the other capstones is also a good move. And the way that all of these gate talents are now set up, they've been adjusted a little bit so they flow from one another a little bit easier. So whether you end up committing into a Tormented Crescendo or even Creeping Death, you will be able to have a lot more freedom in how you can customize into all of these talents. Affliction Warlocks also got a fantastic tier set bonus that synergizes with the spec quite well. A lot of the tier set bonuses, as we mentioned in actually a video ago on the channel, all of them are pretty basic, and they're not really trying to get you to play a very specific set of talents or a specific hero spec. In fact, they're supposed to be basic so that you have more freedom to customize your talents in any way you want to, and have the freedom to experiment with your hero specs as much as you like. That being said, the playstyle of Affliction Warlock is going to revolve around Malefic of Rapture, which is going to make the button a significant output of your overall damage, but there's now a 2 so the 4 set. With the 2 set, Malefic Rapture damage is increased by 5%, and its critical strike chance is increased by 10%. Malefic Rapture also has a chance to increase the damage dealt by your Agony, Corruption, Unstable Affliction, and even the ability of Wither from the Hellcaller, since that replaces Corruption, as that does get applied into the tier sub bonus. All 3 of your basic dots are increased by 15% for 18 seconds. Which in a way could give Malefic Rapture a little bit more of a different playstyle if you end up committing heavy into dots. Where yes, Malefic Rapture can be used to maintain a lot of damage output for your Affliction Warlock when it comes to burst damage, but you could also utilize the tier set to a degree where you're trying to kind of space out Malefic Raptures to maintain this window of additional dot damage for as long as possible, which again gives you even more customizability in your talents and how you choose to invest them on your Affliction Warlock. That being said, playing around as Affliction has been an absolute blast, and I've been loving it. Again, I'm primarily focusing on the Hellcaller just because I love how Affliction is kind of going back to that dot nature and how it's really emphasizing the damage over time rather than spamming Seeds or spamming Malefic Rapture. Of course, all those abilities are a little bit more cohesive with one another, but there's now an opportunity to go dot heavy with Hellcaller, or even burst heavy, Malefic Rapture, and even Shadowbolt heavy with Soul Harvester, where Soul Harvester uses dots to amplify abilities, while Hellcaller works on amplifying your dots. And I love the significant changes you see with either one of the playstyles and how you could just feel the differences from one another. Overall, this newest update gets me even more excited for Warlocks going forward. I feel like I've covered Warlock as a class quite a bit on the channel as of recently, but it is genuinely an exciting class that I'm looking forward to, so I felt like highlighting it once again in yet another video. With that being said, I'm very excited for Warlock, and even though Warlocks right now are a little bit buggy with the way that Destruction works and Demonology tier set, you are looking at a class that's a little bit overinflated in overall damage, so you shouldn't be paying attention too much to that damage output specifically, but if you were to take a look at the class talents, spec talents, and how much customization there is for either of the 3 playstyles, I feel like Warlock is really coming together as a very exciting DPS class that I'm personally looking forward to. But honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I think about Warlock. What are your thoughts about Warlocks in the comments down below? What do you think about the changes that we've seen with Affliction, Destruction, and a couple of new additions, and a minor few additions that we've seen for Demonology as well? Let me know all of the thoughts in the comments below, and which of the 3 specs right now is the one that excites you the most as a potential main or an alt that you may even want to play in the next expansion. Let me know all the thoughts in the comments down below. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.